that if I want to learn something brand new, I never just pick up a book and start reading it. I never do that. I never just listen to a podcast. I put myself in a state where I'm gonna be more receptive to it. Does that make sense? I'll show you how to do that. And I don't even have to show you how to do that. You know how to do that. I ask you to be totally interested and focused and engaged, and you just change your body automatically. So you know how to do that. You just need a coach to remind you, right? Even like movement coaches showing you just, hey, reminding you to keep your posture or to be able to breathe. Because the problem is, a lot of people don't like reading simply because they're collapsed all the time. Like do this, like slump down a little bit. Go back to where you were. Now just look down and just notice how that feels, right? You don't feel very motivated, inspired, and focused. And one of the reasons why, sit back up, you don't want to stay there, is that you collapse your what? Yeah, your diaphragm. And the lower 1/3 of your lungs absorbs 2/3 of the oxygen. And a lot of us, part of the state, the brain fog, how many of you are struggling with like mental energy? And you're concerned that this mind fog, if you will, is getting in the way. Part of it is you're just not getting oxygen to your brain. Your brain is only 2% of your body mass, but it requires 20% of the nutrients. So it's all the organs in your body really are there to be able to serve your brain. Your heart, beating, bringing blood and oxygen to your brain, your liver, cleaning things out, so not to be toxic to your brain. But you want to give yourselves the optimal condition. I really feel like it's one of the most valuable skills to master today. It's something where if somebody has decades of experience in anything and they put it into a book and you could read it in a day or 2 or 3 or 4, you could download decades into days. I think it's the ultimate advantage there is. And in Game of Thrones, there's this quote saying that a reader lives 1,000 lives. A person who does not read lives only one. You know what I mean? And so if you want that edge, if you want that advantage, and I'm not just talking about nonfiction reading, I'm talking about fiction reading too. How many of you enjoy pleasure reading, reading stories? It's been shown to help with your creativity. It's been shown to be helpful for your imagination. It's been shown to be able to increase your EQ, your level of empathy and relatedness and leadership, from parenting to team building. And so this is a skill that it's a little bit, when we were taught in school, a little bit dry. And I could see why some people don't want to indulge in it all the time. And it becomes something like a nice to have. If I have a free time, then I'll pick up a book. But it's always kind of like last. And what I'm here to say is when you put something like reading first, your life opens up in so many different ways. And I know that from personal experience, because here's the thing, emotion plays a difference. It makes a difference, right? The state you learn something in is the state it gets like encoded. Right? And one of the challenges with reading is a lot of people use reading as a sedative. Like how many of you have a book that's been sitting by your bedside an embarrassingly long time, but you pick it up to fall asleep, and that's not the right state to have because you'll take that into when you need to prepare for meetings and prepare for your personal development. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about state. In fact, sit right now the way you'd be sitting if you're totally interested and engaged with what I was saying. You're ready to go. Now, why do you even have to move? But and I'm gonna ask you to take a lot of notes here because I have 30 minutes with you, and I'm gonna give you like a really big download. And so what I'm gonna ask you to do is, for the first part of your notes, is write that. All learning is state dependent. When you're taking notes, what I'm gonna ask you to do on a piece of paper, I'm gonna ask you to do something new. So I'm gonna ask you to put a line right down the page. Now, here's the thing. If you've heard me say some of these things before, I do it on purpose because repetition is very important to learning. Yes or yes? I'll make it really easy this morning. It is, because here's what keeps you from mastery. The fact that you're here says a lot about you. And I appreciate you being here because most people don't show up for things. So already there, you're winning. How many people feel that? Because you've self-selected to be here. Now, how many of you came here at personal, maybe lack of a better word, sacrifice? It took a lot for you to be here, financially, time-wise, away from your family, focus, right? But you do what's hard and then you get the benefit from it. But you only get the benefit of it if you use it. Does that make sense? And I know you know that, but part of what a coach does is he or she reminds you of what you do when you're great. It reminds you of what's inside. And I feel like the thing that keeps you from becoming a master or on that path of mastery are these words saying, oh, I know that already. Do you know what I mean? And I do it too sometimes. It's like, oh, I know that already, something else. But the masters really get good at the basics and the fundamentals because that's everything. And so that's really what's going to give you the most return. So when you're taking notes, put a line down the page, and on the left side, if you're familiar with this, some of you know this and you could quote me on this, but if you're not doing it, I feel like you don't know it. Is that fair? On the left side, you're going to take notes, right? You're going to capture the ideas that I'm sharing with you. On the right side, you're not going to take notes, you're going to make notes. Now, it's a subtle difference, but I do this even when I'm reading. When I'm reading nonfiction and I want to study something, I'll have a notepad where I'm taking notes also, and then making notes. Now, so on the left side, I'm capturing. On the right side, I'm creating. Does that make sense? Meaning that, and what am I creating on the right side? I'm writing my impressions of what I'm capturing. Because if your mind gets distracted, which we naturally do, I'd rather it be distracted than on the right side of the page, using my imagination for something that's going to move me forward on what I'm learning. I think the number one productivity performance tool there is your calendar. Because a lot of you say you want to work out, or you want to meditate, or you want to do this self-care, and you know self-love and self-care is not selfish, and you know all this stuff, but how does your daily calendar reflect that? Do you know what I mean? Because I could look at anyone's calendar and see like where they are in life because of what they prioritize. First things first. I always tell people the key, because you live backwards. Like even when I'm spending time in these senior centers, pulling off some memories and learning from them also as well, what I'm learning is so much, and at the same time, I hear a lot of regrets. And the number one regret I hear ongoing for 2 decades of doing this is that somehow they live their life for somebody else in some area of their life, right? And here's the thing, this is not a pleasant conversation, but this is what a coach who cares about. There's a difference between being nice and being kind. Do people feel that? Like these words are used interchangeably, like they mean the same thing. And this is a little pet peeve I have, and I'm not like really obsessive about like epistemology and words, but nice, anybody can be nice to you because they're not vested in you, right? You could go to the grocery store and the people working there and people buying you, they can be nice to you, but or people can be nice to you because they want something from you, but someone who's kind is different. Right? Nice won't go out of their way, but a kind person will. And a kind person will tell you the truth, not necessarily what you want to hear, because it's coming from a place of caring and compassion. And what I'm when I'm talking about this specifically, when it comes to your brain, is like, we're going to eventually, end this form of, we're going to transition at some point, and many of us are going to be in a coffin, we're going to be in a box, and in that box, there's not a lot of room for possessions. And if you have cars and everything, that's wonderful, but there's certainly not a lot of room for regrets. And my challenge is, I remember I was doing a reading program for Jim Kwik, and we're in his kitchen making brain foods, and guacamole and everything. Some of you know that the genius foods I talk about. And I asked him, why do you do what you do? He was like, Jim, I act completely silly on camera because I want to give people who are watching permission just to be themselves. And that's the most important, to free people from concern. Because here's the thing, if you buy into the opinions of other people, you're gonna go broke, right? If you're looking to be fueled by other people's expectations and opinions of yourself, then you're gonna run out of gas. And you're like, what does this have to do with reading? It comes back to this. Having the mental energy, or some people just don't read because of how it looks to other people, right? How many of you have people outside of this room that really don't understand why you're in this room? Look around, like, why are you listening to another podcast? Why are you buying another book? Why are you doing this all the time? How many people have people like that? And here's the thing, like, sometimes the people that care about you the most are the ones that you give the power to hold you back. They don't hold you back, but you give them the power to do so. And I'm not saying it's easy. When it's your spouse and your family, I'm not at all saying it's easy, because sometimes learning like life is messy. But I'm here to say that the best thing you could do, because you can't change them. How many people realize you can't change another person, right? Think about how hard it is for you to change yourself, and much less change somebody else. And so that's very difficult. But the best thing you could do is be an example.